All right, let's jump right in. Today, we're going to follow two characters, Ralf and Mia, on a little adventure through Switzerland. And as they explore these amazing cities like Zürich and Zermatt, their chats are actually going to unlock some of the trickiest bits of German grammar, and trust me, it's going to be way easier to get than you think.
Okay, so right off the bat, Mia gives us our mission statement. I would like to visit a Swiss chocolate factory. Now, that sounds pretty simple, right? Just a travel plan. But believe it or not, this sentence, and the ones that are going to follow, they hold the keys to understanding some really fundamental rules of German sentence structure.
So, here's our goal. We're going to piece together these little grammar puzzles that are kind of hidden inside their conversations. And we're going to start with their very first stop in the beautiful city of Zurich. You ready to dive in? Let's do it.
So our first puzzle pops up almost as soon as Ralf and Mia check into their hotel. This is where we run into something called ein-words, and you'll see why their little endings are so important.
So after Mia tells him what a great hotel he picked, Ralf gets all charming and says, "I offer my princess only the best." It's a sweet line for sure, but it's also packed with grammar that gives us our first major clue.
The key here is meine Prinzessin, which means to my princess. Now, in grammar speak, the princess is the indirect object. She's the one receiving the action. But let's really focus on that first word, meine. Why does the word for my have that ER ending on it?
Well, it's because mine is part of a special group called ein-words. This group is basically all the possessive pronouns. My, your, our, you get the idea. And in German, these words have to change their endings. They have to match the case, the gender, and the number of the noun they're describing.
So here's how it all clicks together. The noun, Prinzessin, is feminine. And because she's the one receiving the action, she's in what's called the dative case. And the rule is actually pretty simple. For any feminine noun in the dative case, the ein word mein has to get an er ending. And boom, that's how we get meine Prinzessin. Kind of makes sense when you see it all laid out like that, right?
All right, let's keep this adventure rolling. Ralf and Mia are off to that Swiss chocolate factory she was so excited about. And once they get inside, a different but totally related grammar pattern is about to show up with a group called der words.
So they're inside, Mia sees a picture of the guy who founded the factory, and she says, "I would like to give this man a big kiss." Did you catch it? There's another one of those special words in there, diesem.
The phrase we're looking at now is diesem Mann, to this man. So just like with the princess, the man is our indirect object, which puts him in the dative case. And that first word, diesem, it's got a specific ending that we need to investigate.
You see, dies belongs to another group called der words. This category includes the definite articles, the in all its forms, and other words like this, which, and each. And just like our ein words, they need grammatical endings too.
Okay, so let's watch the rule in action. The noun Mann is masculine, and we already know it's in the dative case. Well, for der words, a masculine dative noun always gets an M ending. And that's precisely why Mia says diesem Mann. See, there's a system to it.
Now this slide, this is a fantastic little shortcut. Just look at the pattern for the plural dative case for both types of words. On the left with an ein word, you have unseren Kindern. On the right with a der word, you see welchen Angestellten. Do you see it? Both get that same N ending. That is a super useful pattern to lock away.
Okay, time for our final stop, Zermatt, and the Matterhorn Museum. It's here that some playful banter between Ralf and Mia is going to reveal our last and probably most complex rule for today, the proper word order for objects in a German sentence.
So Mia is teasing Ralf a bit and asks, "The mountain pioneers built the horses their own cabins?" Her question isn't just a joke. It's a perfectly structured German sentence that sets up our final puzzle perfectly.
Let's start with the big main rule for ordering objects in German. Just think of it like this. The person or thing receiving the action, that's the indirect object or dative, almost always comes before the person or thing being acted on, the direct object or accusative.
And this slide lays out the rule and its one huge exception just perfectly. In that top example, both objects are nouns, so the dative, den Pferden, comes before the accusative, ihre eigene Hütten. Simple. But look what happens when we switch to pronouns. In the bottom example, the direct object, the cabins, becomes the pronoun sie, meaning them, and that little pronoun jumps right to the front. The order flips, and the accusative pronoun now comes before the dative. That's the game changer right there. So we have collected some really powerful tools on this trip with Ralf and Mia. Let's officially put them in our grammar toolkit and try a couple of quick challenges just to make sure they stick.
All right, here's your first test. Unscramble these words into a good sentence. Remember to start with the underlined subject, die Studentin. And think about our dative before accusative rule for nouns. I'll give you a second to think.
And there you have it. The answer is, Die Studentin schenkt dem Professor einen Mercedes. The student gives the professor a Mercedes. Notice that word order? The dative object, dem Professor, comes right before the accusative object, einen Mercedes. The rule works.
Awesome. Let's try one more. This is a reply to that last sentence, so now we get to use pronouns. Unscramble these words and start with Morgan. How is the word order going to change now that both objects are pronouns?
And the correct answer is, Morgen schenkt sie ihn ihm. Tomorrow, she is giving it to him. And there it is, our exception in the wild. Because the direct object is now the pronoun ihn, meaning it has to jump in front of the indirective dative pronoun ihm, meaning to him.
So, let's quickly recap the amazing tools you've just added to your German grammar toolkit. First, those ein-word and der word endings, they're not just there for fun, they give you crucial clues about a noun's role in the sentence. Second, the main rule for objects is dative before accusative. But you have to remember the big exception. An accusative pronoun always jumps to the front of the line. And finally, remember that context is king. It's what makes using these pronouns possible in the first place.
You know, it's pretty amazing. We just unpacked some seriously complex grammar just by following a simple story. Now you have the patterns, you have the rules, and you even have the exceptions. So the only question left is, now that you've got the tools, what awesome German sentence are you going to build next?